Welcome to our explainer, where today we are diving deep into one of the most powerful and influential poems of the entire 20th century. And believe it or not, it's only 14 words long.
And there it is. That's the whole thing. Just 2 lines, split by a colon that hits you like a guillotine. 2 lines that, and this is no exaggeration, would change literature forever.
So what makes it so dangerous? Well, because hiding behind that simple beauty is a piece of art so powerful, it can actually rewire your brain, it can challenge your sense of morality, and, well, it might even be able to summon the dead. Okay, let's get into this. So our story kicks off way back in 1912. The poet, Ezra Pound, he's just standing there in a Paris metro station, and he sees these beautiful, almost ghost-like faces just appearing out of the darkness and then, poof, vanishing right back into it. He said he felt this incredible urge to capture that exact feeling. Now, he didn't just jot this down in a flash of inspiration. No way. His first attempt was a 30-line poem that he absolutely hated, so much so that he just threw it in the fire. He tried again, made it shorter, still hated it. So he just kept stripping it down, carving away at it, until only this was left. The pure, raw, concentrated essence of that single moment. And here's the crucial thing you have to understand. This poem isn't just describing a scene for you to picture in your head. It's not a painting. It's engineered to force a violent collision between 2 completely separate, totally incompatible images right inside your mind. It literally smashes the human world against the plant world. You've got the warmth and life of faces slammed against the damp coldness of a branch. This forces your brain to create a third, ghostly image that doesn't really exist anywhere but in your own head, a kind of living death, a beautiful corpse. Yeah, that mental collision, that's no accident. It is a deliberate and incredibly precise hack of our own perception. You see, Pound was one of the leaders of this movement called Imagism, and their whole goal was what you might call a decolonization of perception. They wanted to strip away all the flowery, fancy language of the old Victorian poetry and get right down to the raw, viral power of the image itself. Now, the technique he uses to do this is really fascinating. It's called superposition, and it's basically a form of perceptual sabotage. By making your brain hold these 2 clashing images at the exact same time, he's deliberately short-circuiting your normal thought process. And that right there is why it has to be so short. Its brevity isn't just a stylistic choice, it's a survival strategy for the poem. See, any more words, any more fluff, and your rational brain would have time to recover and try to make sense of it all. But Pound doesn't want you to make sense of it. He wants you to feel that direct impact. So, what do we feel when our logic gets bypassed like that? Well, that's where we move from the technical side of things into a really deep psychological abyss. If you put on a psychoanalytic hat for a second, these images tap into our deepest, most primal fears. The crowd, that's the feeling of being totally alone in the modern world. The faces, they promise connection, desire, but they always disappear before they can deliver. And that wet, black bough, that represents the cold, uncaring world we all feel cut off from. So you see, the poem isn't here to offer you any comfort or big enlightenment. Not at all. What it offers is the sharp, dizzying pain of recognizing that we ourselves are just isolated, ghost-like fragments floating in the giant swarm of modern life. And this feeling, this cold, detached way of seeing beauty inside a wound, it carries a dark political current that would, unfortunately, come to define Pound's life and his complicated legacy. Because if you really, truly try to live inside this poem's logic, just for a day, something inside of you starts to crack. You start to see every stranger on the street not as a person with a story, but as a fleeting aesthetic object, a beautiful thing that's already lost, already dead. And that leads to this brutal logic. If people are just apparitions, just phenomena, then empathy becomes impossible, right? Because empathy needs a story, it needs a past and a future. All that's left is aesthetic judgment. Are they arranged beautifully or not? And that exact same cold precision that Pound applied to syllables in a poem, he would later apply to human beings in his fascist radio broadcasts during the war.
But what if we've been looking at this all wrong? There is one final, almost impossible reading of this poem that flips everything we've just talked about completely on its head.
What if this isn't a modern poem about feeling alienated? What if it's actually an ancient ritual? What if the metro isn't a subway, but the ferryman's boat to the underworld? And the faces aren't living people, but the masks of the dead, and the poem itself isn't an observation, but a summoning spell.
In this secret, necromantic reading, everything is reversed. The petals aren't falling from the bough, representing a moment of dying beauty. No, they are blooming upward from it. The souls aren't vanishing into the darkness, they are returning from it.
It suddenly becomes a prophecy. It becomes a vision of the dispossessed, the forgotten, the ghosts of our world, re-emerging from the underground tunnels of our cities to possess the living.
So, in the end, Pound probably thought he was just capturing a moment of fleeting beauty, but what he may have actually done was tear open a wound in reality that has never quite closed, leaving all of us with a stark challenge. Change the way you see the world or die seeing it the exact same way.